It's so much better to just be like completely single on your own and be patient and wait than fill yourself up with whoever's available, knowing that it's not, again, if you want a long-term relationship, knowing it's not going to go anywhere because that's actually energetically blocking you from finding the right person.
100%. You have to create the space.
And that means the self-love journey and being okay with being on your own.
Yes, absolutely. And it's interesting because with these 3 gemstone keys, and particularly as to your point, it's like, will I ever meet anyone where I've got 3 out of 3? And you absolutely will. That is the standard, to have the trifecta. But it's actually very simple. So many of us actually create very convoluted, long intellectual lists. And what is the genius of this system is that there's actually only 3 things, and they're all sourced from inside of yourself. So when you're connected inside of yourself with these 3 things, and you have your own connection to your opal key, to your rose quartz key, to your ruby key, it actually has an amplifying effect. It opens up the space and it almost puts out like an energetic hard flare to the universe. And people will come in when we've got the blocks and the guards down, and you feel very powerful with having a simple filtering system so you can stay open and available and have fun in the dating process. God forbid, having fun in the what a concept.
I don't know what that's like. But I hold the possibility because I need to actually sit down and do your method and put it to action. So with that, and you'll share with us, you have a whole like spreadsheet. I'm like, how do you guys date enough people to fill out a freaking spreadsheet? But goals, babe, goals. All right. So you take them through these 3 gemstone keys, and then there are the 3 Vs. What are these Vs?
Beautiful. So when you get to know someone a little bit better, when you're really exploring deeper intimacy and the prospect of building a life with someone, you also want to ensure that you have aligned values, an aligned vision for your life together, and what I call an aligned veneer. And, for the purposes of alliteration, to have the 3 keys and the 3 Vs, veneer essentially refers to, the laminate that's on the top of wood, meaning that it's the cherry on top. Essentially, you want to have shared interest, shared hobbies. You want to have the day-to-day lifestyle that's going to be compatible with each other. So you don't need to have identical values. You don't need to be sitting there privately manifesting the exact same thing for the future. But there does need to be alignment.
So the first one is values. So do you suggest we write down a list of our values?
Yeah, I think it could be really helpful to identify your top 3 values and to even do that in order.
Just top 3.
Top 3. Okay. And that's going to have you sweat. And the reason for that is that we want you to be really
in our lives or in a relationship.
You can do it in terms of your relationship, in terms of this exercise.
So what are some examples? Like, what are yours?
Yeah, exactly. So love. Mm-hmm. It doesn't need to be particularly, unique or innovative. Love, care for each other, care for ourselves, as well as care for the planet, as well as innovation, wanting to do things differently, wanting to chart the path forward in a way that's going to be unique, but also in a way that's going to break the patterns for both myself and my partner, wanting to break patterns that we have inherited that are not actually in alignment with our highest truth.
I love that. Now I need to sit and think of what my 3 would be. That's a beautiful one. So after you do vision, so what does vision mean?
Yeah, so an alignment in vision would just be to ensure that you're on the same page about what it is that you want to create in your life. So for example, if you desperately want to be a parent, then ensure you don't need to ask this on the very first video date, right? But at some point you need to be having the important conversations to make sure that your potential partner isn't categorically opposed to having children, right? Yeah. So if part of your shared vision is around being of service to humanity and you'd like to create something not just in terms of the family you're creating together, but you want to create something that's going to have a positive impact on the planet, then that's something that you're going to want to be bringing forwards in the earlier conversations with a potential partner to ensure, are they on the same page, or do they just want to have sort of a relaxed, easy life? Nothing wrong with that. But is there alignment in terms of what it is that you're consciously creating for your life? Are they on the same map as you?
And I think what's challenging about that for so many of us is we we feel like we're going to convince that person that they're going to change and like align with our vision. And the thing is, it's like someone's vision of life is the most sacred thing to them. We can't expect it might change, even your vision may and probably will change over time. Some people want to have children when they enter into a relationship and then something changes and they don't. I think that's where it can get tricky sometimes too, because a relationship is two ever-changing people. But I know for myself, my kind of big life vision is I'm going to live in the jungle in like Bali and Costa Rica with like drums and waterfalls and like be connected to the earth and this tribal way of living and be of service and build schools and build orphanages and make this big global impact. I've always known that about myself. But when I would speak to my ex about his vision, it was like, I want to live in like Ibiza and go to like tech house clubs. And like, that's his highest excitement. That's not my highest excitement at all. So then we would get to these conversations of like, wow, we actually want totally different things in our lives. But when the love is there, you're like, you don't want to lose that person, but it's like love versus like your life. And that's, I feel like that's the beauty of conscious uncoupling, is to be like, maybe there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with me. We just have different visions.
100%. And you mentioned the spreadsheet before, and this is a very useful tool when the love is so strong with somebody, because what I always encourage my clients to do is to be real with themselves and what their true vision was before they met that person, right? So they're not retrofitting their entire life journey to what's going to suit somebody else. And so it is important when we get to the 3 V's where we are really looking at what we said was important to us. We're using the spreadsheet as a guideline for ourselves, because everything might be fine in those early days, but if there isn't alignment on those big important things, then it's likely that's going to lead to bitterness and resentment down the track and a whole host of other problems.
Yeah, I have a friend of mine who she was in a beautiful relationship with someone, but she really wanted to have kids and he was clear he did not. And they loved each other dearly. And they had this beautiful conscious uncoupling ceremony at Burning Man where they let each other go. And I found that so mature of them to be like, you deserve to follow what you want in this lifetime. And that's ultimately our relationship in our lives is to our dharmas. It's to our highest selves. And the people who come into our lives are either here to support that or teach us lessons, which ultimately support that as well.